It's the morning meeting. Thank you for joining us. With peace, love, and understanding, I announce to you our cast for today. Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary under President Trump, serves at a variety of senior positions on Capitol Hill and the Republican National Committee. And introducing Dan Turrentine. I just like the introducing. Dan, tell
Yes,
people who are joining the platform for the first time a little bit about yourself.
sure. So I started as a fundraiser and worked on a couple campaigns and ended up running fundraising for Hillary Clinton for a few years. Was a consultant to Nancy Pelosi. Did gubernatorial and Senate races from Iowa to Colorado to Maryland and in between. Worked with think tanks and then did a stint on Capitol Hill as a chief of staff to the guy who's now the governor of Colorado. He was then a congressman, Jared Polis, and then was a lobbyist. So been on multiple sides of the table in DC.
Avid runner.
Avid runner, and you've moved from the Upper West Side to the Upper East Side. Also
yes,
important.
exactly. Yes.
What name all the presidents you've met? All the presidents you've met. Who are all the presidents you've met?
That I met George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump. I actually took some Democrats to raise money from Donald Trump, and he was unbelievable. Like, I looked forward to going to meetings with him because he's entertaining. And I never met, actually, I did meet Jimmy Carter. I did meet Jimmy Carter. We did when John Kerry got the nomination, Terry McAuliffe had all the former Democratic presidents come up on stage with John Kerry as a sign of unity. The Building Museum. Look at that.
So you met Joe Biden. I don't think you said that, but I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So you've met every president since Carter except for Reagan.
Correct.
Sean.
Which I would have loved.
I have Ford, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton. I never met Barack Obama. I met Biden. Obviously Trump. Yeah, well, there you go.
But not Carter or Reagan.
Not Carter, not Reagan, not Obama.
Yeah. We got to get you with Obama. Let's work on that. Anybody
Mark,
on here?
How about you? Did you met Reagan, I assume?
I never met Reagan. I met Nancy Reagan.
Okay.
Reagan. I did an event at the Reagan Library. I never met President Reagan. I met all the others. I met Carter. I think I met Nixon as a boy because my dad worked in the Nixon White House.
Ooh.
So I think I met him as a, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. If my dad's on, he'll maybe tell me. But I met everybody else. All right, everybody here, if you're on the Zoom here on the two-way platform, you want to be on the conversation, as many have already done, hands shooting up, please raise your hand. As always, we love people who've never asked questions before. So if you're new to the platform or not new but never raised your hand, please do. If you're watching on X or YouTube, don't raise your hand. Don't put smack in the chat. And just every thought in your head, we're like the thought police. Peace, love, and understanding. Peace, love, and understanding. Peace, love, and understanding. Thank you for
Dan,
that.
have you ever met a pope?
No, but if you Google me, I took my son.
I do that.
Yes, when was in DC. This would have been like, I guess, 10 years ago. No, ish, 13 years ago.
Francis or Bennett?
I forget. I took him. We lived near the VP mansion. We walked over to Mass Avenue. I put my son on my shoulders as the Pope drove down Mass Avenue, and we are photographed in like Catholic USA magazine or something, waving to the Pope. And my son, was like three or 4 years old. So I've seen the Pope. I've been within 20 feet of the Pope. As close as I got.
Good. All right, here we go. The president today, a limited schedule. In fact, overall, it's a pretty limited schedule today, Friday in May. Nothing of interest in the White House pool that I see except Real Clear Politics is the print pooler, and Gateway Pundit is the new media correspondent. They already were, though. This isn't their first time, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting mix today, though. You got CBN, which is a Christian Broadcasting Network, as the secondary. I mean, it's sort of a hodgepodge today.
You call it a hodgepodge. I call it a beautiful melange.
Oh.
That's what I call it. Beautiful melange. All right. President, limited schedule. Pools in at 9. He signs executive orders at 4, closed press. So that as of now, the centerpiece of the day will be Caroline Leavitt's 1 o'clock briefing. So we look forward to that. Interesting formatting for those who follow this with minute detail. And Sean will probably cut your eye too. Normally the briefing goes at the bottom of the schedule. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know. Because it literally they'll break it out and say briefing time.
Yeah. So interesting.
Also,
maybe
I gotta say,
yeah.
the 1 o'clock president signs executive orders is odd because we normally know that does open up, which will signal the pool that they're not getting in because they can't.
It doesn't. I mean, lately it's been opening up less. The other thing is he likes to watch the briefing. So, maybe I'll have it on while he's signing. All right. And Congress is out. One other thing the president's doing, it's not on his public schedule, but reported, I believe, first by Politico. He's meeting with the gentleman from Missouri, Jason Smith, who happens to chair the Ways and Means Committee, amidst a lot of conversation, which we'll engage in here, about how they are going to solve all these problems with reconciliation, including what Dan likes to call the tax piece. So let's start with the big news of yesterday, which happened after we went off the air, which is the Pope. There's a million things we could say, talk about the Pope and what an incredible story it is. If you haven't read Peggy Newton's column, I recommend it to you. But just for all of America, whether you're Catholic or not, what just an epic story, boggles the mind. It's almost hard to process this. And the guy's life is so interesting, and everybody's obsessed with the fact that he's a White Sox fan. Just briefly, Dan, what is the relationship, do you think, likely to be between the president, the vice president, and this American Pope?
I think that's the thing I'm most fascinated about, is how does the Pope use his voice, and how does the president and the vice president and others use their voice, with him. He seems to be a fairly progressive Pope by kind of the church's standards, and has had some interesting things to say, not just about Trump, but about, others. So I'd just be curious how he uses his voice, and how our political leaders of both parties use theirs with him.
Sean.
I think we, and understandably so, look at every elevation like we do a political race or an appointment. And I think that there's something very unique and special about becoming Pope. From a Catholic perspective, just this is not an election like it's student council or running for a Senate seat, which is the prism by which we view most things that we talk about on this show and that most Americans see things. And the reason I say that is that I think that everybody is scrubbing every piece of information and interview and tweet that he's previously sent, and trying to get some kind of divine intervention about what he will do or say. And I think we'll have to wait and see. This is not a normal elected position that you would get in here, or some prime minister race. So I think that the elevation of a cardinal to this position is something that's so unique, and that he will reflect on that tremendously, because it's not just about this. It's first and foremost, it's guiding the church. And so I'm reserving judgment, because I don't think that you can look at a bunch of tweets, which is what a lot of people do, and jump to a conclusion to say he's going to do this or he's going to do that. There are some things in church doctrine that are very hopeful that he has said and done and upheld. But I also, as I said, believe that once you become the pontiff, that you view things in a very different way in terms of how you have to lead the entire church, not just your archdiocese or your order. So I'm going to take a wait and see view of this.
Well said. Brilliantly said. Thank you for that. I'm going to say 4 quick things, that we're going to move to our next topic. Our next topic is reconciliation. We could talk about it for an hour because there's so much going on, but we won't. But let me just say 4 quick things. First of all, as I predicted, my father sent me a message. He says, I did not meet Richard Nixon. I met Kissinger, who my dad worked for in the White House. I did not meet Nixon. So I'm sorry. I apologize profusely for telling you.
Well, are you sorry that you didn't meet Nixon, or are you sorry?
I wish I had. I'm sorry I misinformed the public, the vast North American and worldwide viewing audience of this program. Number 2, I see in the chat, which I never read, but I glance at, some people are like the merch here. So I normally don't encourage participation in the chat, but if you would buy this, if this were available to you for purchase, I want you to put in the chat, I would buy it for, and tell me how much you'd pay to buy this. Just give me your inflation adjusted, right? This thing, being made under Trump inflation. So how much would you pay to buy this? 99.9, Mr. Shaw, 100. I see a lot of people saying 100. Are you guys being serious? You'd pay $100 for this?
Mark, it's like asking if the sun rises in the east. Of course people are going to buy merch. They've been begging for it.
I know, but $100, people pay $100 for this thing?
Wait,
75?
Can you do with sleeves? Like I mean, I get that's more of like the golf attire. I'm not, I don't need the extra layer.
Sean, understood. I see you like Bill Belichick. You just cut them. It's just kind of like, Okay.
So country of origin is going to matter on this. Just telling you.
Don't worry. We're good on that. We're good on that. This is from Fairway and Green, by the way. And the good folks at Fairway and Green make extraordinarily nice merchandise. And that's what this is. So stand by. I'm going to hold everybody. We're going to take the names down. If you put in the chat, you pay $100, like you're going to get an invoice. So be ready. Be ready. All right. Then I also want to say this. Sean, I say this with love and affection. Don't say very unique. It's poor usage. You said it twice. Please don't do that. Say that just as a small corrective measure. And I remember I praise what you said.
Game on, son. Game on.
Oh, you can parse everything I say. I'm good. There's one more thing I wanted to say. Talked about the merch, talked about Sean saying very unique twice. Said I didn't meet Nixon. I had one other thing, but I'll remember it. Let's go to our next topic. So lots going on with reconciliation. The president's meeting with Smith. The meeting yesterday on the SALT deduction was a disaster. They're far apart. The moderates, particularly from New York, who are supporters of the stupidest public policy provision of all time, want a much higher cap on the SALT deduction than
just moderates. At least Stefanik is not necessarily a moderate, and she was
just a special interest pleader. Anyway, and then there's still the speaker's now saying fewer tax cuts. They might have to sunset some of the tax cuts rather than make them permanent. And then we have this kerfuffle. Okay, so the president previously had floated, Steve Bannon pushing this. He pushed it in the first term. Let the top rate rise. Don't extend the deduction in the top rate from the original Trump tax cuts. And the president floated it, and Grover Norquist and Newt Gingrich and pretty much every Republican member, not everyone, but pretty much everyone said, no, we're not the party of discriminating against rich people and letting their taxes rise where everybody else stays the same. So it seemed like it was dead. And in fact, I think both the president and Scott Bessent, if I remember correctly, both said it's dead. Okay. So then on Wednesday, widely reported, the president called the speaker and said, hey, let's do this. Right. So it's out there.
He changed it. He changed what it was.
Yes, but yes, same idea.
Yeah, correct.
Let's raise taxes on the wealthiest. Who defined as well? Pretty wealthy. I mean, I think they were talking about people who make over $2 million as an individual.
Two and a half, $5 million, five as a couple.
Five as a couple. So that's very rich people. So then this morning,
those are more of the west side. Isn't that right there on the west side? Or
no, the east side. People on the east side are richer. I live in the whatever. This morning, I started to hear from a lot of people in the Republican Party on the Hill and elsewhere who said, all right, we're just going to have to kill this again. Now, the other thing that's been floated, and this is in some ways even more of a threat to a certain category of people, there was buzz they were going to raise taxes on carried interest, right? And that's like, for a certain category of people, that is like, no, that is like going to war. So it appears now that dead, alive, dead, alive, dead again. The president, this is a tweet, a truth for the president, seemed to this morning, after seeing all of this and after reportedly telling the speaker, let's consider this, dead again. Problem with even a tiny tax increase for the rich, which I and all others would graciously accept in order to help the lower and middle income workers, is that the radical left Democratic lunatics would go around screaming, read my lips, the fabled quote by George Bush, the elder, that is said to have cost him the election. No, Ross Perot cost him the election. In any event, Republicans should probably not do it, but I'm okay if they do. One of the greatest closing sentences of a presidential statement on important policy I've ever seen. They probably should not do it. I have so much respect for Newt Gingrich and his judgment about politics. I continue to agree with Steve Bannon. I think this would be the best politics for the Republican Party. And I think it's also good policy because there's no magic about the current rates. All right. We could talk about that. There's still a lot of Medicare issues out there.
I think the ghost of George H.W. Bush would come floating back in. Bye-bye. There's no way.
Well, it's not going to happen. So that's
it. Wouldn't be Democrats that would say
Sean,
that.
But Sean, here's the question I want to ask you, and you can talk about obviously anything you want about reconciliation. Why did the president bring it back up on Wednesday when it was already dead and there was
because somebody is showing him a model that shows how much more you can get if he raises additional revenue. But the bottom line is the Republican Party ceases to exist the second it supports raising taxes. Full stop.
Oh, I don't think that's true anymore. I think the old Reagan coalition's dead, and it wouldn't. I mean, that's the irony. I don't think someone showed him a model. I think someone showed him a poll. First off, this sounds like Elizabeth Warren. If you go back to 2020, she proposed a tax rate at 5 million. So he's doing 2.5 plus 5 million for couples. The problem is they don't have answers. So that now all their nonsense, all their happy talk that like everyone gets cake and, you know, everything they want is meeting reality. So he sees it. He knows that the number one thing in focus groups and polls that really goes off the charts on this whole reconciliation bill is the rich. And he knows it. And so he is desperate to try to find a way to take that off the table. It has nothing to do with revenue. You're going to blow a hole through the deficit. It's a complete joke, but it's politics. And the guy is a great politician.
I disagree. I agreed with everything you said, Dan, but I do think the revenue matters because they've got to find a way to square all these circles, and every dollar counts. Well,
it's just like
they get closer though. Every dollar
get closer,
counts.
right?
They put it this way: they wouldn't do it for the politics. I mean, they wouldn't do it. No. There's disagreement about the politics, but they wouldn't do it if it's just the politics. They need the money, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll give it to you. They do need money.
Yeah,
because the optics are horrific about what they're about to do. Yep.
Not just the optics, but they can't get there right now. I think. Well, how many of you guys agree they're going to pass it? It's going to be ugly, as Sean has said. You know, there'll be twists and turns, whatever. But we all agree they're still going to pass it, right?
Yes.
All right. I did kind of a straw man there. I'm slipping a little bit on my confidence. I will say the events of yesterday really. Now I'm not sure. Now they're going to make it.
But I think what they may do is the bar is going down. So, you know, it was 5 trillion in cuts and spend and like $1 trillion or 2 trillion in cuts. Now I think it may go down to like 3.5, 4, 750 to 500 in cuts. Not all of his campaign promises are going to happen. And they're going to sunset a bunch of this for, you know, JD Vance or AOC to deal with.
The sunset, the gimmickry is going to
some people laugh
an all-time level, right? It's going to be DEFCON 1 gimmickry. So they will sunset stuff. I agree with Dan. They will use the most robust growth that they can find on the internet and claim that we're going to have like 7.5% growth. They will then, cap and means test every provision except for the 2017 tax cuts. So look, I think they will get it over the finish line. I actually think if anything's slipping, it's the timeline, because I think what'll happen is you will continue to go further and further back. We will have massive fits and starts. This will make one of those government funding things where they close the government 8 times and reopen it the next morning. They're going to do that kind of stuff. It'll fail. It'll come back. I think the debt ceiling thing will come in big time. I mean, like this is going
to me, that's the key. Because there's no forcing mechanism right now. So if you're negotiating over the debt ceiling or Medicaid, no one's saying you, well, we got to reach a deal today because there's no real deadline. That's why I keep waiting for the X date. The minute there's a deadline, that's gonna change the nature of the negotiations. I had heard Democrats for 2 weeks say, here's what's going to happen if it fails. If it fails, they're going to have to do a deal with Democrats, raise the debt ceiling. The Democrats are going to demand a bunch of stuff, extend the tax cuts, and raise the debt ceiling. But then everything else the Democrats are going to get. I'm now hearing Republicans saying that, but I believe Republicans are talking about it as a threat.
Right.
It's a way to say they were to you know, the moderates and the hardliners or Freedom Caucus. Hardliners is too pejorative for me. Is to say to them, you know, guys, it's our deal or we're doing a deal with Hakeem.
Well, and to that point, I will say this, you know, when we talk about the tariffs and everyone tries to ask Trump about what exceptions they'll give, and he says no, because he doesn't want to preview a negotiation ahead of time, which I agree with. I think you're going to find the same stuff. There's going to be threats galore in the next 4 to 6 weeks where they're, you know, and I mentioned this yesterday. Mike Lawler's been playing these double decks of cards saying, all right, you don't want to raise salt to my level. That's fine. Blow the whole thing up. Salt comes back in its entirety. I get what I want. You get nothing. And
Right.
and I think that you're going to see more of the threats get raised by the different groups and saying, that's fine. I'll walk away from this or I'll only vote for that.
I agree.
But that it's going to raise to a level that everybody's going to go, oh my gosh. And then it'll suddenly go, oh, wow, look at that.
All right.
Can I ask you guys something though?
Got to be quick. Got to be quick because we're it's really tight.
Who gets rolled, the moderates or the Freedom Caucus? I think the Freedom Caucus is now going to get rolled.
I do too.
Yes,
I do too.
They don't get rolled. They don't get rolled. But
former Supreme Court Justice David Souter has passed away. So I'm telling you that just happened. The other thing I wanted to tell you before, some other breaking news, but I don't remember what it is. Guys, we have like 6 topics to go and not that much time. So we're going fast here. Everything's fast, okay? Everything's fast. China and Russia, big in play right now. Putin did a big event yesterday. We won't show the video, but we're going to the talks in Geneva. Who goes into the talks? There's a report in the New York Post and Bloomberg that Trump might reduce the tariffs on China next week as a sign of goodwill. Who goes into the negotiations in Geneva with more of the upper hand now, China or the U.S.? Sean.
It's close. I mean, I think China's weaseling a lot more concerned than people are giving credit to. So I think it's almost a draw right now.
Okay, draw. Dan.
Draw.
The correct answer.
And Trump, by the way, I think did a truther saying 80% on tariffs down.
The correct answer is the United States. Correct answer is the United States. Russia. Sean. Putin talking very tough now. Do you still think that Putin is not going to make a deal?
I think he's talking tough because he's scared. I mean, because he's now backed into a corner. So I think part of the reason the rhetoric is getting raised on his side is because he's got nowhere else to turn. The heat is getting turned up on him. He realized he's isolated, and he overplayed his hand.
Okay, Dan.
Everything Sean said, but in the complete opposite.
Okay. All right. John Fetterman, we could talk an hour about this. Incredible story. He's not, very few Democrats are defending him now. The leadership's defending him, but the House delegation is not. Here's a person who's defending him. Number 105, Dave McCormick, his fellow senator, with whom he's developed quite a good relationship. 105, Dave McCormick going on X this morning and saying basically, leave my friend John alone. Vicious personal attacks against his wife and his health. There's a lot going on. And I can tell you, I'll be careful in my language. Lots has been reported about what's going on in his life. There's more. There's more. So here's the question, guys, real quick. Dan, will John Fetterman be the senator from Pennsylvania on Thanksgiving?
I don't know about Thanksgiving, but he won't be by the end of the calendar year.
I chose Thanksgiving for a reason. Sean, will he be the senator on Thanksgiving?
Why did you choose Thanksgiving?
Can't say, but will he be the senator on Thanksgiving?
That makes I'm having a little bit of pause there. I'd say no.
Yeah.
But I think
the correct
hold
answer
on,
is
here's
no.
what I'll tell you. I believe that there's going to be a deal.
Short Sean.
The question is no. Here's the thing. I believe it's going to some kind of deal, whether his wife takes the seat or though I don't know her immigration status, but I do think that he's going to try to make a deal to get out of this.
You know what? This is Josh Shapiro 2028. Everyone's going to watch this pick.
Yes, correct. Okay. History will record about John Fetterman. They'll describe him as a senator in 2 words. Ready? Very unique. Letitia James being investigated by the Justice Department now on this issue. She's hired Abby Lowell, one of the best defense lawyers in America for political cases. Busy guy. Used to, amongst others, I believe, represented Jared Kushner. Mostly represents Democrats, though. Or be redundant, maybe. Here's my question. Will Letitia James be indicted by the U.S. Justice Department eventually on this matter? Dan.
Yes, what's good for the goose.
Sean.
To quote Taylor Swift, karma is my boyfriend. I believe
that's it. Great line. Drop the mic.
Okay. Ed Martin. We talked about this yesterday. Sean, I was trying to remember and I couldn't. Did you say Ed Martin would make it yesterday or not?
No.
No. Okay. So Ed Martin.
I did not say I don't think I answered the question whether he'd make it or not. I think the question was more whether Tom Tillis would make it. And yes.
Right. Okay. So Ed Martin is out. He's not going to be the U.S. attorney for D.C., but he's getting a big job in the Justice Department. The president announced yesterday that the temporary U.S. attorney for Washington is Judge Jeanine Pirro. Here's my question. Is there any chance, Dan, that you think she will become the U.S. attorney, or is this just a short-term gig?
I can't believe we're talking about this. I don't know.
Dan, it's U.S. attorney for D.C.
No, I know, but
Sean, all right, Sean.
Anything's possible. You know what? Does she give up at Fox? I mean, that would be the
I don't know how she didn't. Wouldn't she have had? I assume that
take a leave. Take a leave.
She's got to be on leave to be even acting U.S. attorney. I mean, yeah.
Right.
Although in this White being on Fox Daily,
Sean, is she going to be the U.S. attorney?
Absolutely, I do. I believe so. Yeah.
I agree with you. That's the correct answer. All right,
and
excellent.
Again,
all right.
To go back to my other quote, karma is my boyfriend, because
Yeah.
all the
So So the Joe Biden interview was yesterday. We're a forward-looking show. So we thought, well, let's have a conversation about how Biden did and what it means for the future. And I thought, I'm not really sure how to do that. Is there a peace, love, and understanding role model we could look to say, what's a way to have a civil, unifying conversation about, here's the role model we found. This is 103, please.
Today,
All right.
did you tell her
You
that?
think he's ever told a lie?
I don't think he tells many lies.
Cognitive decline, I can tell you that much.
I don't think he tells many lies. I don't think he's done a.
Come on.
Wait. No, you know why you don't get to laugh like that? Because you support a guy who lies every freaking day and lies continuously. You support a guy who cannot acknowledge that he lost the 2020 election and that lies about it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's in Jake.
Thank you.
Have you read it? Have you read it?
Guys, we gotta go. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Guys, we got to go. We'll be right back. I would say very tempted to go with that model, except that show's ratings aren't very good. So apparently that's not a winning formula. Sean, what are your takeaways for the Biden's appearance? We're on for almost a full hour. And although I normally try not to ask two-part questions, if you were a Biden staffer, would you have looked at yesterday's performance as a win or a loss or no effect?
Well, I would just say it goes back. You actually brought it up yesterday, so I'll say that you made a very unique point. That Jill Biden announced apparently there's a book in the works where she, quote, spills the tea. So I think Jill Biden should have spoken more because that's who apparently is selling the book. But that was not. I mean, I think this was a horrible week between Kamala Harris at the Met Gallery, Timmy giving his comments at Harvard, and Joe Biden reminding us about his mental decline. What a horrible week for the top of the ticket there.
Yeah. Dan, again, if you were a Biden staffer, the Bidens are not the most metric-oriented political family I know. They're more about poetry than metrics. But if you were a Biden staffer and the Biden said, I want to know, what did we achieve yesterday? What are the metrics of success that we achieved? And you wanted to, give them the best you could give them. What would you say they achieved yesterday?
I mean, I have a lot of snarky answers. They put themselves back in the conversation. So if that was your goal, you're being talked about all over. Unfortunately, it's in the negative. I guess you put some new thoughts about why you did certain things on the table. Look, it was delusional and defiant. It was terrible. And the problem looking forward is every Democrat in Congress 2028 is going to now be asked about two things again. What did you know and when did you know it? And do you think the president was mentally fit to, be in office and run for re-election and relitigate his presidency rather than talking about the future? Because he is defiant and wants to convince you once again why he was great and why he would have won if he stayed in the election.
The greatest thing to happen to Joe Biden yesterday was the conclave announcing Pope Leo.
Yeah.
I mean, honest to God, as I said yesterday, it stepped on some fantastic news from from President Trump, not just on the UK deal, but on the air traffic control announcement that was huge. But Biden has got to thank Pope Leo for making sure that no one continued to talk about that interview.
I look forward to their next interview. I'll say that. All right.
By the way, he did one on the train with Dana Bash, where it didn't get any attention, thank God. But stop.
Did she run into him on the train?
I don't know. I just saw a clip online, and he's sitting in his chair on the Amtrak because he's a man of the people.
So I got one question for you too. Sanders and Warren on TV recently have totally stumbled over this question of Biden. Who's the first 2028er who speaks plainly and directly and calls the bullshit that we all know occurred?
Nobody, because all I want is donors.
Nope. Because you know what, Mark? You want his donors? You would do it.
Yeah, I actually
that's why someone is going to, I think, in the next 72 hours, step forward and be a man or woman about it and speak to
it could be Michael Bennett because he already did it.
No, 2028er.
I think Michael Bennett's a 2028er.
Oh, all right.
He's in my top three. All right. One last topic. We're doing our winners, losers, and what we're looking for this weekend. And then to your questions, Claudio, you're going to be first because you're new. I think you're new, right? Claudio, you're new. Yeah. So raise your hand if you'd like to end the conversation, particularly if you haven't gone before. Dan, winner of the week.
My New York Knicks. No one thought they'd win a game.
Move
They're
on.
up 2-0.
Let's
They're
go.
going
Let's
home.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. Well, let's hope they win the series, Dan, because winning 2 games
That's
is
right.
not.
I thought they'd
He's
get
not winning
swept.
4. Not winning
Yep.
4. Yeah. Sean,
Chess.
please explain. Or as John Stewart would say, gone.
Here's my thing. This goes back to the Russia hoax, and now the Ed Martin, Janine Pirro. Every time someone tries to go take out Donald Trump or one of his allies, they think that they're winning. And yet there's a game of chess being played. So you take out Ed Martin, and you know what? Ed Martin moves over to DOJ. Janine Pirro comes in. Boom. You go after Donald Trump. You think you're going to kick him off the ballot. The next thing you know, he's back. I mean, so I'm a fan of, I think chess is the game of the week.
Okay.
I'll tip my hat. That was clever.
My winner of the week, Laura Loomer, White House personnel director de facto.
I argue that if you believe that, then Casey Means shouldn't get confirmed, and she will.
Okay.
You think she will?
Yeah, probably. But she took out another person. It's incredible.
Those are heat-seeking missiles.
Yeah. Dan, loser of the week.
I mean, this is too easy. Joseph Biden.
Sean.
I concur with Dan, but I do think, and I wish him, honest to God, the best in terms of his mental health. But I do think that the John Fetterman phenomena, and so I'll say it less about the person and more of this, oh, he's the second coming and he's going to be our savior. A guy who's running around in a Carhartt and shorts is somehow the future of the Democratic Party. I never thought that would fly. And I think that we finally popped the bubble. But the interesting thing about it is, and this is where I wish that Senator McCormick, and God bless him for being a kind person, but it's not Republicans that are going after John Fetterman. It's Democrats. It's his staff. The people closest to John Fetterman are the people doing them. So if Senator McCormick, if Dave wants to send a note, he should just send an email to Fetterman's staff and say, stop going after your boss.
Well, he's not well. He's not.
Right.
Not.
But I'm just saying, Dan, I mean, my point is, this isn't Republicans attacking.
Oh, I agree. Oh, 100%.
Right? This is blue on blue.
Yeah.
This is his own team.
No on Walking Duck. If you can find the Dana Bash interview, we'd love to see a bit of that because I didn't even know about it. I'm embarrassed to say. So let us know if you can find that and just start playing it. Loser of the week is the Chinese. Because over the course of this week, as I said earlier, the U.S. position is stronger going into these negotiations than it was a week ago. And the Chinese have lost ground in various ways. I won't detail them, but they're the loser of the week. Dan, what are you looking for this weekend?
What comes out of Switzerland?
Sean?
That's the right answer. So, I mean, there's no question. Everything is going to shift to Geneva.
It's actually a tie. It's what comes out of Geneva and what comes out of the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks will go to a decisive 3-0, or as we say in London, 3-0.
Oh, I'm going to tell you guys, hey, guess what? This is another one where you're going to be wrong. Boston will come roaring back.
Sean,
I think they will too, but
Sean, when was the last time you went? When was the last time you went to a Knicks game in Madison Square Garden? Not the TD whatever garden.
I was at the Big East tournament.
Which,
by the way,
got to go to a Knicks game.
I'm going tomorrow. 3:30. Yep.
The game's at 3:30 tomorrow.
The Big East is back.
Have you offered me an extra ticket for that?
Do you want to go? We can talk offline here.
East Side guys.
You're going to the Knicks game. The Knicks game is at 3:30.
Knicks Celtics tomorrow is at 3:30. I'm taking 2 of the kids, and it is right now on the market the most expensive basketball game in the history of Madison Square Garden.
Really?
But I bought tickets
and therefore maybe in the history of the United States, right?
Yeah, I think the most expensive ticket right now is $56,000, which is.
And you're gonna waste that on a minor child.
Can I tell you? It's funny.
We are in the, I think, second to last row.
Can I say this? The funniest thing. I will tell you how I knew I was a Republican when I was a kid. I used to wait in line for Grateful Dead tickets, and then by the end of the morning, have sold them for whatever the going rate was, because people would offer you some absurd amount, and at like 16, 17 years old, I would be like, I'm taking that.
Don't put up what you're going to put up. This is either going to be a clip of Dana Bash interviewing Donald Trump or Joe Biden, or it's going to be a screenshot of StubHub showing us the ticket price. I can't wait to see which it is. Please
Dan Abash.
Mr. President, what do you think about an American Pope?
I think it's great. And I think he was a good friend of Pope Francis, and I think he's going to keep moving the church in a direction, being more ecumenical and reaching out. And I think that's all good.
I mean, you're only the second Catholic American president, and now we have the first American Pope. Did you ever think you were going to see that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me, but it pleases me a great deal.
So he goes on in that interview to say that I knew that he wouldn't win the election because of sexism. I believe. Oh, wait, that's the wrong.
Yeah. It's the rare correspondent anchor who knows to hold the camera in the landscape and not portrait, or maybe it's landscape. Guys, if you could just Google and see, like, did she just run into him on the train? It seems like that's what happened. Anyway, Claudia, welcome in. Thank you for joining us for the first time and getting us 1/3 of the way there to the Holy Grail. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind, and thank you for being part of the two-way experience.
Thank you. I'm a European from Europe. I'm not American. I know you thanks to the Megyn Kelly show and follow you because of that.
Claudio?
I'm so happy to know you.
Claudio, it's very unique to have a European from Europe.
Where do you live, Claudia? Where do you live in Europe?
I am an Italian of Spanish and Belgian ancestry.
And so where are you now right this minute?
In Italy. I'm in Umbria.
Umbria is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Beautiful there. Well, thank you for joining. We'd love to know what's on your mind, sir.
Yes. And the thing that I follow most time is the reconciliation for me too, because I'm interested in the clash between the moderates in the Republican Party and the conservative regarding the cuts, because we have the same problem in Italy, and most of the time became a generational struggle. The younger Republicans versus the older Republicans would say, no, don't cut this, don't cut that. And I hope it doesn't become a clash between the young and the old voters in the Republican Party, to be honest. Interesting.
Claudia, for some reason, some of the people in the chat think you're like in Queens or Brooklyn and you're about to yell at Baba Booey. Do you know what that means?
No, I know what it is.
You know what that is.
My professor of marketing was from that place because it was a New Yorker.
Yeah. What's something you could say to prove that you're in Italy, that only someone in Italy would know? You got a copy of the local newspaper you could hold up or anything?
I have no. If I can show you
Look
something.
Look at the green bottle. Wait. The green bottle.
This is an Italian
water
that there is not in America.
Show the cap. Put it down so we can see the cap. Now, take the cap. Put it down. Look
yes, the famous cap.
The cap doesn't come off. It's got that thing. That's only in Europe, folks. That is proof positive. You couldn't find that annoyance anywhere in the United States because we would not stand for it. You can, Claudia, you can twist it off. If you twist it hard enough with all your might, you can get that thing off, just so you know.
Okay, I can do it. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Dan, thank you, sir. Dan, comment on what Claudia had to say.
Claudia, can you repeat what you just said? Sorry.
I'm scared of the clash between the conservative and the moderate Republicans in the reconciliation that will become a young versus old people in general.
Like most Europeans, Dan, Claudio's worried about the clash between Mike Lawler and Chip Roy. So
exactly, you explained that in the right way.
Yeah. So Dan, can you comfort Claudia as a matter of transatlantic pacificness?
Yes, our country will be okay, but it's sometimes we have family fights, and one side of the family loves watching the other go at it. I think some of this is geographic versus ideologic, in that it's people from states with what's called the SALT tax, where they want it back, or raised, depending on how you want to look at it. And I think some of this is between kind of the ideologues who really do want to cut the budget, and those that don't want the political pain that's going to come along with it. It really, look, if you're from a district where you get 80% of the vote, so what if you lose 15 or 20%? You're still going to win comfortably. If you're from a district where you win by 5 or 10 points, you can't have that much slippage, or you'll be a former member of Congress. So, look, this happens. We had it on healthcare. We had it on, cap and trade. We had it on several issues. It's where you got stuff like the Cornhusker kickback, the Louisiana purchase, other famous phrases, because what you do to cut a deal is you buy them off. And that's just the way it works.
Yeah, I think it kind of randomly lines up that it's moderates versus some conservatives or whatever, but it's parochial. I mean, this is Chip Roy of Texas with low state income tax or no state income tax, and Mike Lawler, Jeff Van Drew and Keene from New Jersey, David Valadao and others from California with high state property taxes and blue governors. So this isn't like some right versus far right issue. This is literally I'm representing my district, and that is what it is. I think what makes this unique, though, as I've said before, beyond that, is sort of the randomness of how the policy lines up. Meaning that, as I said, what is so different is it's not like I want this because of my constituents and you want this. What makes this really intriguing is that if nothing happens, if we don't extend these tax cuts, policy reverts back to pre-2016. That means Mike Lawler and the people who are fighting for SALT, for the state and local deduction relief, get back all of it. They get 100%. So Lawler walks into this, and I think what makes the discussion much more intriguing is the horse trading that's going to occur, right? Chip Roy, and others have said, if you're going to give them this, then we get more cuts or we get more this. And I think the Lawler position is, I don't need to negotiate. I get everything if nothing happens. And so I don't look at it as a moderate conservative issue as much as it is a my district versus yours.
Claudia, have we soothed you at all, or are you still very upset?
No, I'm okay for that, because I'm also thinking on the fact that Trump is using the tax on the rich also to convince these people to take a deal, rather than using that to say, I want to really do that, to be honest. I agree with what said Sean, and also what he said Dan, to be honest. So I'm satisfied.
Yeah. Okay. Claudia, do you make your own pesto?
I make my own pasta sometimes, yes, and I also make other stuff. I'm a podcaster too.
Yeah. Okay. I said pesto, not pasta.
I also do pesto sometimes, yes, if I find the right basil.
Yeah. So sometimes you do pasta with pesto.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you for joining. Please come back regularly. I'm a little confused on the Knicks Celtics front, because Dan sent around a thing that showed tickets for $56,000, but I'm looking on StubHub, and the most expensive I see on StubHub is like $2,000.
Well, somebody may have bought the $54,000 tickets. It was not me. I want to be very clear, but somebody. I mean,
yeah,
this city's crazy.
All right, so that's what I looked at. That's
there you go, 54.
But there's the 54. I don't know who said the 54.
I mean, Front Office Sports is a super legit business. They cover the business of sports.
Yeah.
I don't think, honest to God, I'm going through my head right now. I don't think there's a single live event that I would pay a fraction of that to go to.
No, of course
not. Of what? Of $900 or of
no. Like I'd pay $1,000 for like a Super Bowl or something like that.
Yeah, Game 7.
But I can't imagine having the money for to pay $50,000 for any live event and nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ed, unmute, please. Ed, have you been on this program before?
I'd have to be able to shoot a ball for $54,000.
Yeah. Ed, can you unmute? Hold on. Try again. See where that is?
Bottom right.
Look at the bottom right, Ed.
Or bottom left, I guess.
Depends on what kind of device you're on. Bottom left, really. Ed,
hello?
Ed, there you go. Ed, have you been on this program before?
No,
Ed?
I have not.
Where do you live, Ed?
I live in the home of the best pizza anywhere in the continental United States, Rochester, New York.
Phoenix,
Absolutely
Arizona.
New Haven's got an argument.
Ed, is all the pizza the best, or you're thinking of a particular place?
Oh, I'm thinking of a particular place.
What's it
It's
called?
Nick's. It's right around the corner from my house. It's great guy. He's from Salerno. All his ovens are from Italy. He's great.
Ed, do you make your own pesto?
My wife makes my pesto.
Okay.
I leave the kitchen to her.
Okay, good. Ed, well, welcome, and we couldn't be happier to have you. And you get us 2/3 away towards our goal of giving away free merch to everybody who wins if we get to the third person. No.
Anything I can do to help you guys, I'm more than happy to do.
Ed, very grateful to you.
This question is for the best dressed Democrat in the United States, and probably one of two men who could convince me to re-register as a Democrat. I read your article on the Substack a couple days ago. I thought it was excellent about the future of the Democratic Party. But what I wanted to ask is, do you think structural changes are also needed? I'm thinking particularly of the order of the primaries, or the way delegates and superdelegates are selected, and how that might fit into your view of the future of your party.
Brilliant question, Ed. Thank you for that, Dan.
Thank you so much for all the kind words. And for those who haven't seen it, I'll give a shout out to Mark yesterday. Did a pretty nice little opening monologue on the Democratic Party. Changing sorry, Mark. Yeah, changing the primary schedule would be huge. I mean, I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Iowa and New Hampshire were swing states. It was good to plant your flag there and, be there for a couple years. And if you were able to emerge victorious, it spoke to your ability to kind of be competitive in swing states. Now, New Hampshire-ish, but on the federal level really is not much of a swing state, and Iowa has drifted completely away from the party. If candidates had to go plant their flag in Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan, and spend the next 3 years figuring out how to appeal to those three electorates, and not just in the Democratic primary, but how do you win over moderates and others, it would move the party more towards the center, more towards a likelihood to be successful, versus going to speak to, at least in Iowa, a super progressive Democratic base that's left there. And in New Hampshire, there's always that, tendency to try to potentially go grab the base, although the moderate candidates have been fairly successful there.
Sean.
Thank you.
I'll leave to Dan the analysis, but I will say it's a great question, Ed, because I think the funnel by which a candidate has to, and the path that a candidate has to go through to get the nomination. You could be the greatest person in the world, but if you can't get through the first few states, it doesn't matter, right? So the path forward of how these states lay out, I think is going to be critical to who their nominee is and who gets to set that calendar and how. I was at the RNC for 2 cycles when there's a huge struggle about carve-out states, as we like to call them, and a fear of changing them. And obviously, you had a Secretary of State back in the day in New Hampshire that was a lot more powerful than the current one. But I do think that the politics of what states go first and how that, because you think about South Carolina and Jim Clyburn and the impact that he had on Biden. So I think it's a great question. And, I don't have more to share on it, but I think it's great you're bringing that up.
Now, I would say one thing that I think is overlooked. I believe this is the case, that Joe Biden broke the unwritten rules. He became the nominee after not just losing the first 2 states, first 3 states, but losing them badly.
Correct.
Now, Bill Clinton's a little bit of an asterisk. He lost the first 2 states, but Iowa was not competitive because Harkin was in the race and Bill Clinton was the comeback kid and effectively won and lost New Hampshire to Tongass. But I don't believe anyone else has ever been the nominee without winning one of the first 2 states. Am I right? I think I'm right. Right?
Just going through my head.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'm right. So Biden. I mean, again, a lot of this is about expectations, right? Why do you have to win one of the first 2 states before Biden? Because the press says you do, right? You get no coverage, the donors disappear. It's possible that in the next cycle, people will say, well, Biden didn't win the first 3. And certainly if you're a strong candidate and you don't win the first 2 or 3, you're going to say to the press to try to recreate the expectations, hey, Joe Biden came back, I'm going to win the next one. So I think that may be a bit of, if you'll pardon the expression, game changer if the thing sets up just right and that there's a strong candidate like Joe Biden was strong enough to win the nomination, and then the general who doesn't do well in the early states just because the way they set up.
I think it depends, Mark, who wins. If it's a super progressive that wins, then I think kind of like Sanders, you'll see. But if some moderate, John Edwards almost surged. Yeah, it was in 4. But
Buttigieg and Klobuchar and Bloomberg were all in the race. All at that point, you could say could have been the savior, and yet Biden still overcome. It wasn't like Sanders. It wasn't like Sanders won the first 3, cleanly. So like I said, I think it's an overlooked thing because it's all about the media. You win almost, even if the first 2 states are big. It's not like you have the delegates locked up, and so I think it's something to watch no matter what the calendar ends up being. Ed, next time send us a pizza. Don't just talk about it. I'm starving.
Absolutely. And I want to tell Dan that as soon as he opens his electronic store for men's apparel, I'll be knocking on that electronic door immediately.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Ed. Dan, I have
By
to
the
say,
way, I'm getting killed in the chat. I thought I'd go casual Friday. I'd try something different instead of like navy and grays. The feedback is a gift People do not like this. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I like it.
I like it. I like it.
Crushed.
It's actually not a very television friendly jacket, to be honest. But Aisha,
But it is very unique. It is
it's
very
Something different.
It is very unique. Is anybody reading the chat? Is anybody give me a rough sense of
I glance at it.
how many people said they'd spend $100 for this? Seemed like a lot.
Oh, they're on pizza right now. They're all over.
So many people said they'd pay $100 for
But
that.
like how many? But like how many? I want to call our friends and tell them
many
let's
people.
do
I hear
it.
it all the
Many
time.
many people are saying.
Many people are saying.
Yeah.
Draw poll over 50.
50. Okay, that's a lot. Cynthia, you've been on the show before, haven't you, Cynthia? No. Oh my goodness. Well, ladies and gentlemen, little known fact about Cynthia, she makes a mean pesto. Welcome in, Cynthia. Thank you for joining. Unmute if you would. Welcome to the First Timers Club, 3 in a row. Very excited. Tell everybody where you are and what's on your mind.
I'm in Kingsport, Tennessee. It's far east Tennessee. I'm closer to Canada than I am to Memphis. But yeah.
Okay, that's a good fact.
My question is about a long time ago. You said you were thinking of doing a show where people could call in and ask any political question about anything about the political process, even if it was a very simple question.
I'd say that's true every day, Cynthia. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
So here's my question. When you talk about whichever party is in power in Congress trying to pass bills, and you talk about them passing the bill, you say, well, if it's about the Republicans, but they had to use Democratic votes to get it passed. Or if you're talking about the Democrats, they had to use Republican votes to get it passed. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I mean, in my mind, if they have to use votes from the other party to get their bills through, then that's a sign that we're sort of coming together. And so why is it considered not good if they have to use votes from the other party?
Cynthia, I'll make a stab at it, and I don't remember any specific examples, but I think sometimes what we do here is we conflate what is versus what ought to be. And sometimes it's like right now, if the Republicans, for instance, had to pass a bill with Democratic votes on the reconciliation package, for instance, all three of us, without explaining it enough, jumped to the reality that would rip the Republican Party apart. It would really hurt the unity of the party. So even though you're right, as a matter of civics and in some cases often policy, it would be better if they passed it in a bipartisan way. This particular bill, with so much of the president's agenda in it, if they fail to come to unity and had to pass a version of this that was tilted in any way towards the Democrats, it would be politically disastrous. It would weaken the president. It would hurt his relationship with the party. It would cause a lot of tension within Congress, within the Republicans. And so we say that would be bad, but we're being too elliptical about it. We're saying that'd be politically bad for the president, not bad for the country. Does that explain it?
Yeah, a little. Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. We shouldn't do it that way. I agree. Sean or Dan, do you guys want to say anything else about that? Or
I just say context matters, right? So if Republicans right now that have the majority can't pass a bill by themselves, it says something about the internal dynamic. If right, and that's the thing, is so that in the Senate they don't have a filibuster-proof majority. So how it's explained, to your point, matters, Cynthia. I think if a bill today had to get support from Democrats in the House, then that would expose some kind of schism within the Republican conference. So I think that when it's done, sometimes it lacks the context. And it's also, most of the time that the media does it, it's a pejorative, that the mainstream folks are trying to make it sound like it was a bad thing, and try to expose that schism that exists.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, people will cut deals when the electorate rewards them for doing it. Right now in primaries, both parties do not reward people for compromise. When was the last time you saw a candidate running an ad saying, I cut all these deals and got 40%, but it's better than nothing?
Yeah. Real quick, I brought Ed and Claudia back because I saw in the chat, which I never read, but I glanced at, someone pointed out 3 extraordinary accents. So with your permission, I just want you to go around and we'll do Cynthia, Claudia, and Ed. Just say your name and where you're from and why you like two-way. Just one by one, all right? Your name, where you're from, and why you like to.
Okay,
Cynthia first. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah. I'm in Kingsport, Tennessee. However, I was born in Alabama. So,
But so I apologize for everything. Say your name, where you're from, and then why you like two-way.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Cynthia Johnson, Kingsport, Tennessee. I like two-way because both sides are presented.
Claudia.
Claudio, I'm from Spoleto, Perugia. I like two-way because of the bipartisanship and the moderate way in which every people talk and argument.
Thank you. Ed.
I'm Ed Grashevsky, Rochester, New York, and I love this show because it's actually a discussion, not a shouting match.
Yes.
Very grateful to all three of you, and three beautiful accents. Thank you all for participating. Sean, what do you have tonight, and what do you have going on this weekend in terms of other appearances that people could follow you on?
Well, I'll be off the grid because on Saturday night, if you're looking, I will be joining my wife. We're manning the concession stand for the children's beautiful performance of Under the Sea. Both the daughter and the son are performing. Nice. Mercy Schlapp's kids are in it. This is going to be huge for Alexandria.
What roles are your kids playing?
My daughter is a shrimp, and my son, he's got some. I don't know.
Okay. All right. You'll get back to us on Monday.
Yeah.
Dan.
But I'll tell you, by the way, real quick, tonight, I'm so excited. I've had a lot of shows. Obviously, Dan was a huge hit yesterday, but tonight, Alex Bruzewitz, who leads X Strategies and was the architect behind the President's podcast strategy and continues to guide it. If you're interested in what podcast he does, why, who the other players are, I am so excited. I have more questions than time will permit tonight, but this is one of those shows that I get really excited about.
That guy's a genius. No matter what else you think, he's a genius. Dan, what do you got going on? You got any media coming up?
I will be on with Sean Hannity tonight. So that will be my event this evening. And then going to the Knicks tomorrow.
And then the Knicks.
All right.
That's a lot of money to pay.
It won't be all glamorous. I will be unpacking and hanging things.
Celtics will win that game.
All right. Tell you about a few things going on. I'll be on with Brian Kilmeade on the radio in 3 minutes. So you can tune in for that. Then on 6 o'clock tonight, two-way tonight, we'll wrap up all the day's news. Our friend Batya Ungar-Sargon will join me to talk about what happened on this Friday. My podcast, my video podcast, Next Up, available now. You can watch it on YouTube on Next Up, Halperin, or you can listen to it as a podcast. Talk to the head of the Veterans Affairs Department, Mike Collins, former congressman. We run through his explanation of what he's actually doing at the department. Try to separate fact from fiction about accusations that they're turning their back on veteran care. So you can listen to that. We also do word association with the Trump cabinet. And then I give my reporting on what Democrats are saying now. Some Democrats are saying the party's not facing facts. For instance, I give a bunch of questions that Democrats say we should be asking ourselves in private and in public. Here's what I like a lot. Why did Bobby Kennedy leave the Democratic Party? And why is he so popular with so many people? Every Democrat in the country should be Kennedy. He's a Kennedy, synonymous with the Democratic Party. They forced him out of the party. He wasn't looking to leave the Democratic Party. So what happened?
And they still trash him.
And they still trash him. Correct. And then one more thing. On Sunday, I'll be on Howie Kurtz's show, a media show on Fox, talking about two-way and why we think two-way is growing in popularity. And I'm looking forward to that interview. So lots you can enjoy. And of course, Monday, the three of us will be back. And don't forget the second version of the People's Poll, where we solicit questions. Sean has questions, Dan has questions, I do, but many of you do too. We're in the field now doing the poll. We'll have it for you Monday. And many of you who submitted questions will have questions in this poll. And so look forward to getting the poll. You'll get it in my Substack. We'll post it online and we'll unveil it Monday. David Burrell will be here to walk through the results. Some of the questions are about politics, some are not. And we'll be delighted to recognize those of you by name who submitted questions that got into the final survey. And again, many of your questions got into the final survey. And we thank you for participating in what we believe is a path-breaking concept to have people from around the country, not professional pollsters or political people, submit questions to sample public opinion.
And so just on behalf of all of us, we gentlemen, we all need to say happy Mother's Day to all the moms this weekend.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day to the moms. And we'll have full coverage of that on Monday too. And again, please, if you pledged $100 to buy this thing, make sure you set it aside, just like you set aside money to pay your taxes.
You can Venmo me the money now, and I'll make sure it gets.
You haven't gotten a Mother's Day gift. What better thing to give mom than
two-way, whatever this is. Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you all for watching. Thanks to our 3 first-time questioners. Save the program. Have a good day. I'll see you at 6. Sean will see you at 6, and Dan will see you courtside with Spike Lee.